Next speaker, Mr. Donald Jackson. After Mr. Jackson, Veronica Williamson.
Donald Jackson, 79 Tracy Avenue, Newark, New Jersey, 07108. First, let me start off by saying I'm disappointed, highly disappointed in this board. Ms. Robinson came up with concerns about a student being raped, a riot, drugs in the building. How y'all don't know about this? How don't you know about this? See, this is one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why y'all can't tell me y'all do y'all work, because if you did, you would have knew about that. That is ridiculous. And yet we're promoting education, trying to get people in college. Not with a high school like that. She described it as epidemic proportions. That is a code red to the fifth power. And yet you guys sit there idle. Superintendent, you sit there idle. How can this board sit there idle, not angry? I'm sitting in this audience, angry. You got students talking about being jumped in the bathroom, being jumped on their way home. How are you guys not angry? And then these students who commit these crimes are not punished. What is going on with Newark Public Schools? Board members, what is going on with Newark Public Schools? What is going on? Y'all don't know. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Unbelievable. Do you want your child to go to a Newark Public School like that? Do you want your child jumped on the way to school, from school? How about if you had a relative that taught in a school like that? I have family that teach in Newark Public Schools. It is unbelievable that a teacher was assaulted, nothing happened. Student caught with drugs, nothing happened. A gun, a weapon, nothing happened. Y'all better stop selling our souls. And with that being said, I cannot believe a particular board member, Shavar Jeffries, sat here and ranted about a public school failing. My question is, what are you going to do about that? Close it and merge it with another failing school? You think that's the solution? That's not the solution. Sat here and ranted, said, and let me quote, a genocide, that we leave a school named after Martin Luther King Jr. open with that level of failure. Well, my question is, what are you going to do about it? Closing it is not the answer. It is not the answer. I don't know how more simple it can be. I don't know how simple it could be. And as I was telling Ms. Robinson, as we were sitting down, I said, every year it gets worse and worse with this board. I know that I've been at this mic since 2006, and nothing has been done. I'm fed up. And some of the same people are still sitting here on this board. My whole question for tonight is, what are you going to do?
Next speaker, Veronica Williamson. After Ms. Williamson is Ms. Donna Jackson. Order. Ms. Williamson, you can start.
Good evening. I'm not going to be before you long. I do have some information that I typed up in reference to the grad tracker. We still have students in the district that will not meet the requirements to graduate in June. Very disappointing. I'm asking that the board, I'm requesting that the board get with the high schools to have an emergency parent meeting so that parents can be informed and made aware of before June come about students not graduating. Another thing is, you know, it's disappointing. To my understanding, 2 schools in Newark, I'm quite sure all of them, but 2 particular schools, Barringer and Westside, and quote me if I'm wrong on Westside, the administration is not reporting incidents. To my understanding, you guys are doing an investigation right now on both schools, And I would really, really just know what the consequence will be for the administrators. I think that they should be immediately removed if this is so. This is a long-going thing. You know, it's very disappointing. I don't talk before you guys too much anymore because you don't do anything, so I just put everything in writing. So, you know, what I'm asking the parents to do is stand up, stand tall, fight for your kids. I'm one parent who fought with 3 to 4 people with me. We stood tall. You know, you could do anything that's possible. Don't let them close your schools. This is where we live. Take back our schools. Take back our schools. Take back our schools, people. Because, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you guys pour your hearts out and things are happening in the schools and what have you, and it seems like nobody cares. You can't wait on them to make the decision for you. You got to take back your schools, and I'm saying that because you will win.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Next speaker, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson, you give me just 1 minute. After Ms. Jackson is Regina Black. Go
Okay,
ahead,
I
Ms.
get
Jackson.
79 minutes. 79 minutes. I didn't know if y'all was going to laugh at that or, you know. But I'm going to go for 40. Donna Jackson, 128 Smith Street, New Jersey, Hellraiser, Newark resident. Getting ready to put all of this in perspective. Ms. Anderson, because you continue to send disrespectful messages out in my community, threatening that you're going to lock this door tonight when the building gets to capacity. If you didn't say that, you could correct it later. I still won't believe you. The way you had the community meetings last week to say that only parents could come to those meetings instead of letting us have our educational family at those meetings to discuss things with your staff lets me know that you don't care and you're not about improving education in the city of Newark. Thus, we have the petition for your removal. Just to let you know, your good friend, Commissioner Surf, last day is tomorrow. Hold on, easy. See, while I missed the last 3 board meetings, I truly understand, Ms. Anderson, that you have a boss. And I truly understand, Ms. Anderson, that you and Mr. Surf had no intentions on improving anything in this district, along with some of your henchmen like Mr. Jeffries and others who don't come to this board meeting as they should. Those who want to put down a board member like Mr. Lewis because he dares to stand in times of controversy. But that's our baby. Mr. Lewis is our child. Born and bred out of Arts High School, that's our baby. He can say whatever he want to say because he just graduated, because he just went through this monster. And although I agree that there are a lot of areas of improvement, Mr. Jeffries, I beg to stand here today and tell you, there's a whole bunch of your friends working in these schools that you helping Ms. Anderson keep working, that's helping Newark Public Schools continue to fail, Mr. Jeffries, because you want this to happen, because your corporate partners must have promised you some rainbow in the sky. They're going to make you the next mayor of Newark. They're going to make you the next governor. And I guess by 2020, I guess you think you're going to be the vice president of the United States. And that may happen for you, sir. But what I do want you to take with you as you sit there and denigrate the public school children, you just visited Camden Middle 2 weeks ago. You were in Bard, you probably stopped by Bridge, and you probably was over there at the prep charter. Well, sir, 15 minutes after you left, your lovely children that don't do nothing wrong from prep charter decided to come down and go over to the kids at Bard and beat their behinds. It wasn't enough for them to do that in front of that building, Mr. Jeffries, because what they then did, none of your administrators from your schools, because see, you created those monsters, so let me tell you how they don't work. Your kids decided, okay, it's not enough to fight in front of the school, let's go over to Bergen and Springfield and fight in the street. So once again, Donna Jackson must save the day. I stopped my vehicle in the middle of Bergen and Springfield to suspend the traffic so that the people in the community that know me can jump out of their vehicles too, so we can keep our children from killing themselves. Mr. Jeffries, we'd also like you to know that your children that attend Newark Collegiate, it's okay, it's all right, y'all know I got the gift of gab. Your children that attend Newark Collegiate are fondling each other in front of the federal building every day at 4:30. You need to get on top of that, sir, because see, me and my partner, we walk up to the kids and ask them, why are you doing that? So what I want the purpose of what I'm saying to all of y'all is, because you think you want to support this charter movement in public. What I want to say to the people sitting in this room, I'm concluding, because first of all, you ain't even buzzed me.
Ms. Jackson.
But I'm concluding, and let me just say this. So those of us that's sitting in this room, there's no need any longer for you to be afraid to sign a petition because they intend for you not to have a job anyway. If we are not going to do this fight and
Ms.
not
Jackson.
do this fight for our children, then we need to stop packing these board
Ms.
members.
Jackson.
It's about y'all being able to
Ms.
take
Jackson.
care of your family, but it's about these kids being able to learn.
Ms. Jackson, your time is up. Next speaker, Regina Black. Next speaker, Regina Black. Regina Black. Next speaker, Tamanis Nickerson Jean Renoir. Next speaker, Tariq Rahim. Tariq Rahim. Miss Jackson, Miss Jackson, Miss Jackson. Mr. Rahim,
Yes?
go ahead.
My name is Tariq Rahim, 25 Eastern Parkway, Newark, New Jersey. Got a few points I'd like to share.
Go ahead, Mr. Rahim.
The first point is that a lot of the Newark community, which I was born and raised in, is hurting. And what you see here is like a lot of the frustration because everybody doesn't have the access to the information during this digital age. So a monthly newsletter coming from the board itself might actually mail to the families' houses would be useful to keep people informed because everybody can't access the internet. And I find this in my travels. The next point I like to make, second point, is that when different directives are coming from your discussion is coming up and you're voting on issues, people like to hear the questions coming from the board members because it helps us to clarify things that might be confusing, that everybody understands is at the table, but the community, the residents don't understand the issue. So when Marquise or any of the board members ask questions, those questions are very useful to the parents, to the teaching staff, and to the people that are in the audience. So please continue asking the questions. The next issue is that the third point is that when Newark Public Schools is one of the largest employers in the state, along with UMD&J, Newark International Airport, but we have an impoverished community. Nothing gives me greater pride than to see students that graduated from the schools in Newark that were born and raised actually working for the system. So when we're hiring new people, that we should consider Newark students when they apply and do some kind of outreach to reach the people in Newark. I think it's important. Conversely, nothing is sadder than to see our schools close because they rip apart a community. It's sad when you have students that say, my mother's going to get laid off when the school's closing. So we have to be very careful before we make that decision on closing schools. The fourth issue, I spoke at a smaller meeting than this, was that when we talk about the issues of race, the African American community, about 35 to 45% of them are Muslim in this community, and even some of the significant number of the staff members have to choose whether to take a personal day to take off for the Eid. And I asked earlier, but I hope that you're considering it, that we close the schools, keeping in precedence with six other cities, Prospect Park, Hillside, Trenton, South Brunswick, Edison, and Patterson, on October the 26th, so that the families could celebrate and do their religious obligation. What's that? I got 30 more seconds, right? Right? 60 seconds? Okay, good. All right. Our teacher representative came up, spoke about some serious issues, but at the end of the day here, teacher retention, one of the most humblest, sweetest people I knew, Dr. Mildred Hudson, understood that it was important to retain good teachers. And when we don't have a contract, it hurts. And we lose good teachers in a system that needs good teachers, good boots on the ground. Next, that's it. If I may, we should look at the statistics on debate. Debate has proven to increase test scores for students around the country, and have made them to be very productive. It's a resource that should be considered,
Thank you, Mr. Rahim.
invested into the system. So, maybe we should do, like, as the lady said, a feasibility study on that.
Thank you, Mr. Rahim.
Thank you. And my boss is here. If I may say one more item. Is that,
Mr. Rahim, your time is up.
my time is up?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have the next speaker, please? Michael Iovino. Michael Iovino. After Mr. Iovino, Belinda Jackson.
Michael Iovino, 9 Madison Street, Belleville, New Jersey. Proud teacher in the Newark Public School System for about 17 years now. I'd like to start off with a paraphrase of a quote from a great man, Winston Churchill. Never before have so few done so little for so many. In the last 16 years, I've worked at one school, and I worked 1 year at another school. In that 16 years, I've seen Technology High School blossom from a endangered, troubled school into one of the most celebrated magnet schools in our district. But this isn't in defense of one school. I've spoken at this board meeting for several years and have asked many of you and expected many of you to look at what is succeeding in this district, to find out what we can do to put that in our other schools. Consistently, that cry has been ignored. Superintendent Anderson, you hope to move a failing program to my school. You've been to our school one time and have seen maybe 3 rooms in that school. You haven't come to the school, you haven't spoken to the students, you haven't spoken to the families, and that is a fact. These schools that we have in this district that you're closing, consistently, you're ruining neighborhoods. More importantly, this district, the city, is impoverished. The vast majority of the workers in these buildings, the clerks, the security guards, the custodial staff, are hardworking Newark citizens. When you close these schools, you increase the poverty rate in this city. There is a human cost to the things that you are trying to accomplish, and I have consistently asked for academic evidence for this plan, and consistently the response is simply economics. Economics dictate that this city needs help. These schools can be used as resources. It wouldn't take much for you and all the wisdom on that board, combined with all the heart and soul of the people in this city, to turn these schools into the community centers and economic centers that this city needs. Instead, the very best you come up with is to shut them down, to decimate the South Ward so developers can come in there and turn it into some mecca for New Yorkers and for outsiders once again. There's no surprise that on the commuter lines in this city, new developments keep popping up left and right. I have nothing left to say, but I'll be back at the next meeting, and I'll be here until the end of my days in this district. I wake up every morning and look in the mirror and know that I'm doing my best, and I hope you guys don't have mirrors in your houses.
Thank you. Next speaker, Belinda Jackson.
Yes. Is this mic on? Is this one on? I'm here. Oh, hi. My name is Belinda Jackson. I just want to ask a question before I get started. I am the Newark CST representative district-wide, and I wanted to know if I was allowed at 5 minutes because I did fax that in.
That procedure's been changed for quite some time now. It's 3 minutes, and Mr. Del Grasso spoke for 10 minutes, Ms. Jackson.
Oh, because last year I got 5, so I don't know how long that's been. But anyway, I do represent special ed, and I have some concerns. The first thing I want to say is that, Mr. Evelino, I've spent a lot of years in Newark as well. I'm on, I guess, year 13, and my daughter is a Newark public school child. I also want you to know that, I want to also say good evening, board members. Since I don't have a lot of time, I can't, address you directly, individually, but I would like to say to Mr. Kinney, continue to do your work at Westside, serving as the mentor to our kids in our TRESS program and our young men that I refer to you all the time. I actually think he's working. I actually take him as a resource. I'll put it in the IEPs, okay? Mr. Marquise, I was the first person you started getting revolutionized with, but don't tell anybody that because I still work at Westside. You get in trouble at Westside if you're outspoken. But I'm gonna move on. My concern, though, is when I represent special ed children, we need a high school that supports our kids. When ABC closed down, it used to support our kids that have behavior problems, psychological problems, and right now we're not allowed to send kids out of district, but we're dealing with more kids that are coming out of residential programs, psychiatric programs that are entering the larger public schools, and they have 80-minute schedules per class, and these kids cannot adjust to the non-flexibility that happens in comprehensive high schools. I talked about this last year. What we're noticing is that when you do place a kid out of district, it is very expensive, and I understand why you say no, but in 12 years, I have possibly hospitalized 2 kids for a couple of days, and they all end up graduating from comprehensive high schools. We are now experiencing, before December, hospitalizing 6 kids in programs from 10 to 4 months. That means when I went to the state last year and I testified at the budget hearing and I told the budget chairperson for the assembly, when you cut programs in the district, when you cut programs in schools, it trickles down and we get larger populations of students who are acting out and acting with behavior issues, and they're not getting the attention that they need, so they act out on teachers or teachers act out on them. Their behavior, which is emotional and psychological, look criminal, and they end up in the criminal justice system. We need a high school for kids. We need it to be separate. We need vocational opportunities for our kids outside of going to the county. Because I want to tell you something, there are a whole lot of college graduates out of work, but we need welders and brick masons. And everybody get their hair done, okay? So when we talk about those issues, pay attention that it doesn't always have to lead to college per se. Because there are a lot of college graduates out of work. Just one more thing, I noticed $1 billion industry. Newark Public Schools, $1 billion. And before we hire, and we continue to hire people that we need, but our kids don't have books. And when they tell them they can't take the book home, they go home, they don't have it online because they don't have internet. So my kids are not getting that support. And when the SIG program came to to Westside 3 days before school opened, and I'll talk about that next month, our teachers that used to stay from 3 to 4 are now teaching these programs. They're exhausted and the kids are exhausted, so they're not getting that support after school when they have to go back to their classroom to get the book. okay? So I know we got $500 a day consultants in our building, and
Thank
maybe
you,
they're
Ms. Jackson.
useful, but we need for our kids to have access to education. That's more important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Marianne Bay. After Ms. Bay, Denise Crawford.
Good evening. My name is Marion Bay, and I live at 30 Underwood Street here in Newark, New Jersey. I'm also a former school board member and former board president, and I really am very disappointed with a lot of things I've heard this evening. And the reason why I'm speaking here is because the concern that I have with co-location and pitting charter school children against public school children, because it's all about education. Every parent wants their children to be educated. And what's going on right now, to me, is a form of desegregation, if you know what desegregation is. Ms. Anderson, when you were at Rutgers University, I really was disappointed that you just walked out, totally disrespected those of us who wanted to hear what you had to say. I have not had the opportunity since then to hear what the plan is. And listening tonight to the parents in the community, I understand failure is not an option, but closing all of our schools is not an option either. And that what we need to do is give more resources to those schools who are failing. Because charter schools are not doing that great either, and some of you know that. You know, so I just wanted to read something because people have said everything that they need to say. I really don't need to say too much more. One of the things is that when we talk about these schools that have been failing,
Please allow
what
the speaker to
most
speak.
people have been saying today is that for 16 or 17 years, the state has been here. So realistically, you have failed our children, basically. And my concern is that, especially at 13th Avenue School, when we send mixed signals to our children, charter schools, public school children, giving them the idea of public school kids that charter school children are getting preferential treatment, that is sending the wrong signal to our children. I mean, and you guys have to know that. We cannot afford to do that to our children. Because what happens is that when our children see that, particularly when our public school children see that charter school children are getting treated better than they are, what do you think they're thinking? What do you think that they're thinking? Closing our schools is not an option, and what I'm hoping that you're going to do
Please finish up,
is
Ms. Bay.
talk more to the community so we can give you some suggestions so that we all can come together and make this happen in the best interest of all children, not just public school children, charter school children as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bay. Next speaker, Denise Crawford. Next speaker after Ms. Crawford is Julius Bryant.
Good
Please allow-
evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Denise Crawford, 102 Prince Street. First of all, it's sad because I've been listening to everything that's been going on, and I don't know, Benedict Arnold comes to mind, and that's not anybody that I care about. When we sell out our children, and we sell out our teachers, and we sell out people that get up every day in the name of education, it makes me want to holler and cry. First of all, I really want to give thankful to the people that come to work every day at 18th Avenue School. They have done what they're supposed to do in the name of education. They have the leadership there, Ms. Barbara Irvin, you can't even touch her. She has a staff that is doing everything that they're supposed to do, that they have asked. Their children have done what they need to do, the parents. And then to be rewarded and say to them, all we can say is that we're closing you down because of numbers. Numbers, and that's all you've been talking about all night, is about numbers. You're talking about this school failing, that school failing, but tonight, this is a school that has achieved. I want to tell my 18th Avenue family, thank you. Thank you, because they have done what they needed to do. Last year, you said 18th, I'm not going to close you. I'm just going to let you move because your facility is no longer needed. But then this year, you reward a school and the leadership that has been doing so well in the Global Village Zone, and you say, I'm closing you up. That I say, and when somebody talks about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will get up and tell you that that's not the freedom or the dream that he had in mind. So I'm telling you, we have to work together. Ms. Anderson, yes, you have been setting meetings so that we can talk to you, and we appreciate that, but we need some more meetings, we need some more listening, and at the end of the day, we need results that public schools want to stay. I agree with my community when they say that the schools should not close. If you took Wilson Avenue and you fixed that school, we can fix some more schools. We can do what we need to do because the state promised new schools. They have reneged on that, and now they want to renege on the promise of really educating our kids. So I'm saying again, please give the students, give the teachers, and give that leadership what they so deserve. Thank you.
Next speaker, Julius Bryant. Here. Next speaker, Narina Simmons. Next speaker, Lyndon Brown. Speaker after Mr. Brown is Kyle Rivers.
Good evening. We're back again to express our displeasure with what's going on in Newark Public Schools. I know a lot has been said tonight. You know, we're kind of skipping over some things that are occurring right now in our district that should not be occurring. You know, we're thinking about what's supposed to be happening in the fall, but right now we have students who don't have textbooks. We have schools that don't have highly qualified teachers in the classroom. We are condensing our students into 3 and 4 classrooms, calling them academies. They're not traditional schools. And our students are really, really in a win-lose situation. We have students who are getting suspended. You know, the district puts in policies in place saying that when a child gets suspended, a packet of work is supposed to go home for those 4 or 5 days. That's not happening. I have some parents at some schools whose children have been sitting home for 2 months awaiting placement. You know, you get suspended, you think you're going to be home for 3 or 4 days, and it turns to 2 months. Ridiculous nonsense. We really need to get on the ball. Our board members need to have a pulse on our schools. You need to get out and see what's going on in our local schools. There's no parameters put in place for our principals. You're giving them carte blanche to run their schools, and some of them are really, really going, too far with how they're treating the teachers and the staffs of the schools. We still have art on the cart at 13th Avenue School. It's not right. We have teachers who are being overworked and who are being harassed. Evaluation processes should be in place. And we have administrators who really, really need some professional development. So we want to see our board members at our schools seeing what's going on with our administrators. We want our administrators to be held accountable for student achievement. I see that's why we have so many problems in our schools, because we have administrators who are not strong, who are not consistent in what they say and do. We hope to see a change in the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Rivers. Janice Reedus.
After Ms. Reedus, Cassandra Bowles.
Good evening, everyone. Janice Reedus, special needs parent at 13th Avenue School. Once again, I come to one of these meetings, and I'm greatly disappointed by many things I've heard tonight, but I am very happy that so many in my community have spoken up for our students, for our good teachers, and for the people who really are concerned about our children. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be too many people on the board who are. There are a couple of people, including my fellow Arts High alum, Mr. Louise, but there just aren't enough, and it's just completely frustrating and disappointing. I'm one of the parents that's going to be having a school merging with us, Martin Luther King School, A Street, is supposed to be coming over to 13th Avenue. I was at the meeting that supposedly was supposed to reach out to the parents, but we had a discrepancy where our principal sent out one flyer that stated only parents who had a flyer could come to the meeting. There was nothing that said the community was allowed. There was nothing that said parents from A Street were allowed. It just said only parents who had a flyer could attend this meeting. Our superintendent sent out another flyer that welcomed the community as well as the parents, and unfortunately, that flyer was not honored at the meeting, so we had people turned away and then got chastised for not having enough parents at the meeting. And I believe this is happening throughout the city. Oh, I know it is. I know it is. And it's just extremely frustrating to have to deal with this. Ever since the state has taken over our district 16 years ago, the schools have not gotten better. They have not gotten better. So if that's going to be the case, I ask, as I ask at every meeting, why is the state involved with our district? I don't understand it. Our children are not doing better. Charter schools, for the most part, are not the answer. And as a special needs parent, my child can't get into a charter school. So that's a lost cause for me, so I don't even go there. Unfortunately, I'd say at least 30% of our students are special needs students. And you just roll over them like they're nothing. They don't count. Many of our special needs students are very intelligent, but we need different, that's why we have IEPs. They need different things in their classes. They need resources, and you're slowly taking away the resources. How is that going to benefit our children? How is it that you have our school, which is considered a failing school, A Street School, which is also considered a failing school, and you want to merge two failing schools? Where is that? What's the logic in that? Please help me with that, please. So all of these parents who are here have made excellent points. I'm not hearing any answers to any of these questions, and this is an ongoing thing. I applaud Donna Jackson again for getting right to the point. And I'm just totally frustrated. I'm going to keep coming to these meetings because my child is in the Newark Public Schools, and I want all the Newark Public School children to do well, as I'm a product of the Newark Public Schools from kindergarten straight through 12th grade. So I've done very well. My daughter's doing well, thank God. But I want all the students to do well. And that's not what's been happening. And I'm going to keep coming to these meetings to do just that, and y'all can't shut me up.
Next speaker, Cassandra Bowles. After Ms. Bowles is Wilhelmina Holder.
Well, I'm Cassandra Bowles. I'm a parent of a 4-year-old at 13th Avenue School. I'm trying to figure out why is that in 13th Avenue School that the principal really don't care what the students and the parents need. I'm trying to figure out why is that the these charter schools get more in preference than our public schools when the public schools been here longer than the charter schools. I'm trying to figure out, charter schools is not for every child. I would not, if my child was the brightest of the bright, I would not put him in charter school, because you know why? The public school could teach that child just as well as the daggone charter school. All this money, only thing that the charter school is doing is giving them a whole lot of homework. A lot of homework. That's it. Your child can succeed. It could be a very successful person through public school. Ms. Anderson, I have a question for you. You always, I talked to you before. I always told you I'm a parent that's going to be in your face when I need to be in your face. Nothing has changed in 13th Avenue School. Ms. Mackey is worse. She's worse. You have to make an appointment, and if she don't want to see you, you got to make another appointment. She don't want to see goes at her legion. Not when a parent needs to talk to her. She throws people everywhere before they get to her and her little comrades called Gilliam. When is it going to stop? A parent's great jump on Ms. Mackey today. It took a couple of people to keep that person off of it, Ms. Mackey. When is you going to do something about this woman with these kids? My kid is dead. If something happened as far as with my child, man, you really going to talk. Because you know the situation, because I think you and Ms. Mackey are cousins. Aren't y'all cousins? Well, y'all got the same boyfriend, one or the other? Yes, it's one of those. Yeah, we know at 13th Avenue how that goes. You need to do something about it. Because it's not all about that. Our kids need an education, not a drama school.
Next speaker, Ms. Wilhelmina Holder.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening. Ms. Holder, before you start, after Ms. Holder is Mark Knight. Go ahead, Ms. Holder.
There are three items on my agenda, actually four tonight. Charter schools are not the answer to closing the achievement gap. Right problem, wrong solution. And I dare the board members to do your research. Dr. John Jackson just put out information concerning why charter schools are not the answer in closing the achievement gap. When we have only 4% of the children in the United States that are in charter schools, it would take 150 years to meet all of students' needs if we were to go the charter route. So it's obviously not the answer. The answer is to provide resources in the neighborhood schools and to make sure that every child is served well. School closure is just a sin, and Cameron, you know how I feel about this. School closure should be the last option, not the only option or the first option. And they should never be made without community input. I heard someone say earlier about an assessment. There needs to be not only a building assessment, an impact study in the neighborhood, as well as for the children to think that you could send kids from Dayton Street, and this is in my claw, all the way up to Chancellor Avenue, to have two struggling schools, Martin Luther King and 13th Avenue, side by side struggling, and put those kids in there without even entertaining the thought and telling me you can't accommodate them at Ann or Abington Avenue. If you're going to bus them, you bus them there. And don't tell me about oversubscription, because we need to see the data. Everyone's been talking about stuff, but I haven't seen any data. We have seen no evidence that anyone's underdescribed, underutilized, or overprescribed. You have refused to release the information that we asked you from last year. 2 years. What happened to the ABC children? Where are the children at 15th Avenue? Are they succeeding at South 17th Street? Are they in school? What's their attendance like? What's their grades? What's the supports they're receiving? This is the information that intelligent people like our community in Newark requires before we can consign onto school closures. And there should have been a task force of citizens, homeowners, business people, parents, educators, community folks, like was done in Chicago and other places, to make those critical decisions and recommendations to the board. And no board member or superintendent should be on that task force. I'll tell you, best practices. And there's information out there because we do our research. The other thing is the consultant fee. Denver Post just put out a study. 35% of the money that came in from the U.S. Department of Education was eaten up by consultants in Denver without any results showing school improvement.
What's going to happen here in Newark when we are using consultants without hiring people to deliver the services? And what's more frightening, as I see and travel around the schools, including my own grandchildren's schools, to see the loss of Afro-American Latino instructors in those schools. We need people to reflect the community. I heard someone say that. Homegrown children who have gone and done what we asked, gone to college, got the education, they need to be brought back here and not necessarily under Teach for All, because you have yet to provide the evidence that that's the only program that can teach people throughout the country. The data does not reflect that, so they should not have to check off a box on their application that they're Teach for All intern. I believe you need to go to the historically black colleges that have trained our teachers for years and hire these children who have gone to Lincoln, Howard, and other black schools to come back in here and work, especially if they came up through Newark Public Schools traditional, especially because we're asking our children to do that and they're not getting the chance at the employment. And there's no reason people to be ashamed of having a job if you're a Newark resident working in Newark Public Schools. No other municipality frowns upon citizens that work for the Board of Education in their town. Don't make us feel guilty because now you're trying to change or bleach the situation in Newark. It has to be about the citizens of Newark and neighborhood schools. We have to increase neighborhood schools and not close them. And also make sure that the educators, I cannot look my grandchildren, Latino and Afro-American, in the face and have a lot of people that don't look like them in the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Holder. Thank you. Next speaker, Mark Knight. Next speaker, Alicia Robinson. Next speaker, Antoine Austin. Next speaker, Rosanna Sanchez. Next speaker, Catherine Dundon. Next speaker, Stephen Outing. Next speaker, Robert Curvin.
Good evening. My name is Robert Curvin, and I live at 28 Reynolds Place in Newark. I've been around this town for a long time. Was born at City Hospital many years ago, before probably many of your parents were thinking about you. I've been listening a lot to this conversation, and I know that a decision like school closing is a deeply felt, emotional, indeed traumatic jolt to a lot of people, particularly parents and school children. And I want to, the point of my wanting to speak tonight is to most of all say, before I say some other things, is that I think we have to have a civil, respectable, adult conversation about these issues. I fail to see how name-calling, grandstanding, frankly, I marched with Martin Luther King, and I shudder to hear his name invoked here in this kind of a meeting. I think he would be appalled to hear and see some of the anger and the lack of dignity that has been expressed here. But I want to make a point, and the point is that, and someone said this before, the children of Newark have not failed. They have been failed by a critical institution, namely the educational institution that is here to serve them. And Mr. Lewis said something like, this has been going on for 16 years. But I want to read something to all of you. Harold Ashby, who was the first African-American president of the Newark Board of Education, said this when he testified before the commission investigating the riots in 1967. He said, "We are not doing a good job, professional educator or layman, and say these are the facts. Until such time as these reading and arithmetic levels come up, there isn't anyone who can say in the city of Newark, professional or otherwise, we are doing a good job, because these children just can't read or do arithmetic." I have a lot more to say. I'd like to come back. I invite you to my own meeting. But I think what I would emphasize is that we have to have a way of having a serious and adult conversation about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kervin. Next speaker, Habiba Westry. Next speaker, Jennifer Smith. Order, please. Next speaker, Sarita Webb. Next speaker, Latasha Thomas. Next speaker, Troy Bowers. Next speaker, Isaiah Johnson. Next speaker, Jody Pittman. Next speaker, Saquon Paplin.
How y'all doing? My name's Saquon Paplin, right? I want to know why y'all closing down public schools to pit charter schools, because some parents can't afford their children to go to charter schools. And I also want to know why y'all taking us away, taking the students away from the teachers that taught us everything and got us through everything. They got us out of trouble. I feel as if y'all take the students from the teachers, put us in other schools. We're gonna be worse than what we is. I'm done.
Thank you. Next speaker, Lucy Castillo.
Lucy Castillo, 421 Halsey Street, Newark, New Jersey. Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts. My name is Lucy Castillo, and I am the Executive Director of Citizen Schools New Jersey, a nonprofit organization that has had the opportunity to partner with Newark Public Schools for over 4 years. We've worked with hundreds of middle schoolers over the years and have logged over 7,200 volunteer hours with employees from places like Prudential, Cognizant, Merck, and Fidelity. They bring their employees into Newark schools to engage our students in relevant project-based learning. We do all of this primarily between the hours of 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. This is a departure from the norm. We don't do it just because it's a departure, because it's bold or new, but because it's been proven that when students are behind and have great need, more time and time well spent is a huge lever that helps our kids perform, helps them attain excellence. Our model has urged our partners, some of them who are still in the room, to rethink totally the school day, to rethink what education looks like. No less is what we must do in Newark, but our time is running out. Over the years, we've seen firsthand how Newark's young people can thrive if given access to quality educational opportunities. We've also seen how the Newark community craves the opportunity to get engaged in education reform efforts that help our young people succeed. In addition, we've developed strong relationships with our students' families and parents through weekly phone calls and community-based family events. We've brought hundreds of parents and families into schools that have struggled in the past to engage them. Through these strong partnerships, we know that parents are desperate to know that their children are getting the best possible education and are set on a path towards college or career success. That's what every parent wants. That's what every parent wants for their child. Given the opportunity, parents can be our best champions and supporters as we aim to strengthen schools. Beyond parents, let me just skip to this. What I basically wanted to say is we've seen what's possible, and I urge us all to do what we can, perhaps not what we've done in the way that we've done it in the past, but so that we can attain excellent education for all our students. Zip code or ward can no longer be the greatest predictor of student success. Our students deserve nothing less than the best. They deserve nothing less than bold and innovative. If we lose focus and start to prioritize what the adults want or need, or quibble over the details, we need to step back and take into account what's best for our students. They need boldness. Their futures and our future depends on it. They're resilient. They can take it, and undoubtedly, they'll rise to the occasion. The question is, will we? Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to let everybody know that we've passed the 90 minutes for public participation. However, I'm extending, as per the Board Operating Procedures Manual, I'm extending another 15 minutes of public participation so we can try to accommodate more speakers for tonight. So next speaker, Lillian Fuentes. Next speaker, Norma Fuentes. Next speaker, Makeda Evans. Next speaker, Cheryl Campbell. Next speaker, Joyce Banks. Next speaker, Talisa Reddick. Next speaker, Lisbeth Rodriguez. Next speaker, Viviana Venhira. Next speaker, Rasherda Hinand. She's not here. Next speaker, James Morris.
Miss Bailey.
Next speaker,
First warning.
Next speaker, Leonor Mendez. Next speaker, Jimmy Escalante. Next speaker, Lakeisha Jones. Next speaker, Sharday Hammonds. Cassandra. Next speaker, Louise Lewis. Next speaker, Sharon Holland. Next speaker, Adrisa Vanover. Next speaker, Latoya Jackson. Next speaker, Joan Sweeney. Next speaker, Shakia Chambers. Next speaker, Connie Motley Wright.
Good evening. My name is Connie Motley Wright, 98 Hilliard Street, Orange, New Jersey. I stand here as a 26-year employee of the Newark Public Schools, but I also stand here as a parent, a former parent of a Newark Public School student. Because I'm a teacher here, I still left my child in the school system here in Newark at Miller Street School. Also, I graduated from Miller Street School. I'm here this evening because for many years I lived on the same block as Miller Street School. Little known to you all is the fact that Miller Street School is the hub of the community there for Sherman Avenue, for Pennsylvania Avenue, for the townhouses, for Astor Street. Miller Street School has been the encircling arms of so many children. I have seen every person in my family come through Miller Street School that has housed many great people to come through that school. I'm also here to say that my niece is a graduate of Miller Street School, an alumni, cum laude, Brown University, out of Miller Street School. I'm also here to say that when my son and my niece stood up for Miller Street School because the prostitutes were walking the street, where was the advisory board at this time? Miller Street School represents something in that community that you all cannot take away. I have not left the premise of Miller Street School. I still leave my daughter-in-law there, and I hope to leave my grandchildren there also. I'm here to tell you that as a community person that has lived in the area of Miller Street School for over 40 years, I'm saying to you, Miller Street School will not go down. We will not accept your turning Miller Street School into a charter school, nor will we allow our students to be turned away. Louise Spencer, as good as it might be or as bad as it might be, is not the answer for Miller Street School. We need to maintain what we have. It's not broke, so don't fix it.
Thank you. Next speaker, Aniqua Andrews.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I actually have two kids that attend Miller Street School. First, I would like to say I think that the advisory board, what you did, we had 29 applications come through from Miller Street. Looking out, it's maybe one or two parents still here, including myself. We tried to be here on behalf of Miller. You didn't take into consideration to put us up at the top. You know we were attending, and I think that was wrong of you. A lot of these parents had to leave because we are single parents. Miller Street Academy does not have a high enrollment because of the back street it sits on. I think you guys could have put us somewhere up at the top because almost every parent that you named at the end were Miller Street parents who had to go. And for you, Miss Cammie, I appreciate you scheduling the meeting at Miller Street. I don't appreciate you not being at Miller Street. The person that you sent to speak on your behalf spoke but never answered a question for either parents who were in attendance at Miller Street. So what I'm going to do is just run you a couple of questions that we have, and I want you to take into consideration. First of all, prior to you coming to our school, my child, like I said, has been there. My daughter's been there since kindergarten. Prior to this, the day of the meeting, there was a lot of painting going on. There was a lot of cleanup going on. These issues have been there before this meeting. They were never addressed. Why on that day? By law, I understand that my kids have the choice to go to any school that they want. Why are you forcing Miller Street to come to Spencer then? You never gave us a choice. You told our kids that's where they had to go and that's where they will be in September. But I'm here to tell you, my children will not be attending Spencer. As far as I understand, you're saying that Miller is under-enrolled. And as far as I understand, Spencer is over-enrolled. So now you want to take almost 500 kids and put them in an overpopulated school that stands as is. Why not take some of Spencer's kids and bring them to Miller? Spencer is in year 9. Miller is in year 5. Yes, we have great improvement for growth. Why would you take 5 and put it to 9? That's ass backwards. I'm sorry. When I started to hear, when I went to the meeting at Rutgers, like everyone said, the way you walked off was very cowardly. I had to look online to find out what an inclusion school is. What I found out is an inclusion school is where you want to take quote-unquote regular students and place them with special education students in the same class setting and want to see if they'll adapt to it. As a parent, I'm concerned about what these special needs kids' issues are. Is it going to take for an issue to happen to my child for them to be addressed? Or is it just going to be, well, they have special needs, we have to excuse them, and your child has to adapt to their needs? I don't appreciate it, I don't like it, and like I said, my kids will not be attending Spencer come September.
Ms. Andrews? Ms. Andrews, before you leave, do you have additional questions?
Yes,
that
I do.
have not been answered?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Anderson, can someone from the district then reach out? Ms. Andrews, if you can just wait for a couple of minutes afterwards, I'll
That'd
have
be
someone.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next speaker, Dee Terrell. Next speaker, Felicia Johnson.
Good evening, Felicia Johnson, parent of student of Miller Street School. I stand here with deep concern because my second grade student just went through the same thing with 15th Avenue School. I heard someone raise the question, what happened to 15th Avenue? And I'm all for my child getting the best education. But I have a child that graduated from 15th Avenue School who is now an Arts High student and also a Rutgers Scholar student. I have another one that graduated 15th Avenue School who is a Seton Hall NJ Leap student, both which have been attending since 8th grade. Now, I moved because I refused to allow my 7-year-old to go to South 17th Street. I moved. This is my first year in this district. I am deeply concerned because now my baby is being pushed out and thrown somewhere else yet again, as if I don't have the right to choose where she should go. I moved on Miller Street so that she can go to Miller Street School. And for it to be the first year, when I walk in that door to pick my baby up, every security guard knows exactly who she is before I even ask. That goes to show that we're not just a school, we're not just a structure, we are a family. And for you to come in and tear apart a family, I don't see any progress in that. I don't see any growth in that. I don't see that my child would get anywhere in that. Now, I come before you not against charter schools. Not against charter schools, but at this point, what are you going to do about getting resources into the public school system? Because when I watched the news, I was told that Miller Street was the only school that's not failing that was on your list of schools that's closing. So now I'm concerned that my child is lingering. I'm where I want to be. I'm where I want my child to be. And I should have that right as a parent.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next speaker, Rachel Williams. She left. Next speaker, Marilyn Quinones. She left. Next speaker, Michelle Willeries. Next speaker, Angela.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michelle Williers, and I work at Big Brothers Big Sisters, a mentoring program here on 500 Broad Street in Newark. And I'm here tonight to just share that I do have hope for our youth and our families. As a direct service provider in this community, I feel that mentoring is the bridge to help build new partnerships, new experiences for our children, more family engagement for a sense of community, and student impact. So I'm here to say that mentoring is definitely the bridge, and that we're here at Big Brothers Big Sisters to help support our families and support the board in decisions that I know that you sometimes have to make. Although listening to some of the parents tonight, we're here as a direct service provider to also offer mentoring services to our kids. We're here to serve them. And we know that we work hard every day to get great and trained mentors into the lives of our children, and to help give the teachers the strength and the sense of community that they need to build a brighter future for our youth. So I waited here today just to say that and to share that we are here as a direct service provider to offer this mentoring program.
Thank you. There's a white Nissan. I'll give you the plate number, SL511A. Please move it out of the gate, the lot. They're going to lock the lot. So a white Nissan, plate number SL511A. Please move your car. Okay. Next speaker, Angela Dixon. Vate Tachero. Next speaker, Ani Foster. Flohisha Johnson. Ronald Lester. Harry Perriman. Adrian Willie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Harry Perriman, and I have two children in the Newark school system. And fortunately for me, they go to a charter school. Now, as many parents, I've also pondered over where to send my kids to school and whether or not that school would provide my children with the quality education that I felt that they deserved. Now, I've attended many of these meetings. Many. I think I've only missed one or two. And I must honestly say that we as adults, as fathers and mothers and community leaders, we can do a better job in terms of respecting each other. I mean, we can disagree, but we definitely don't have to be indignant towards one another. I think that's something that we definitely have to work on as both parents from both sides of the aisle. Nothing is going to be perfect. There are going to be people who are going to disagree with just about anything that's put on the table. But what we can agree on is that our children deserve a much better education here in the city of Newark. Now, when my kid started North Star Academy in the 5th grade, and he struggled. And as parents, we worked hard with him. This is not just a child endeavor. This is a family endeavor. We worked collaboratively with the school. We spent hours working with our children to make sure that they have risen to the occasion and done all the necessary work to succeed. I'm very happy to say that now my son has turned the corner and he's doing much better. He's not there yet, and there are many challenges ahead. But I know that the school that he attends are dedicated and are committed to helping us work with him. And I just want to say in closing that if there is a system, if the board is willing to work with all parents to have a more amicable way of resolving this issue, I will be for it, and I will work closely with them to make sure it's a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Adrian Wiley. Next speaker, Rhonda Weiss. Next speaker, Tracy Weiss-Quick. Next speaker, Hatia Preston. Next speaker, Wallace Arlington. Next speaker, Mavaquin Darcy Barnell. Next speaker, Candace Ellis. Next speaker, Mr. Willie Rowe. That concludes our speakers for tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Rowe, okay. Roger.
Good evening, everyone on the board. And good evening to the community. First, I'd like to say you've all heard what's wrong with this here plan for closing the schools. And I'm opposed to all of the schools being closed, and so is this here community. If you do anything other than that, you're going contrary to the majority of the community's desires. What you want to put in these other schools, you can put in the existing schools. You need an educational plan. We haven't seen that. We also need a review of the past co-locations and the new schools that have been formed in the district. You heard tonight of the problems going on at Camden with fighting, and that's going on at other schools at Westside also. Here you have successful schools that's on the way to improving performance, and you're tearing them down. Has anyone on the board seen a report of the past co-locations? If they've been successful, have they brought up the students' achievement? Because we can't keep going with this here New York business plan for schools that Surf and Ms. Anderson are trying to implement. New York has been a failure compared to New Jersey. We have a higher achievement rate amongst African Americans and Latinos than New York. We have a higher graduation rate than New York. And I advise you not to go and let Cammie Anderson implement this plan.
because you're only decimating our communities. And if you do, you're going to let loose the dogs of war, because we're not going to take it. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Lewis, but
I'm tired, so I don't have a sermon tonight. I forgot my sermon at home.
okay, Mr. Lewis, before you go on, Ms. Baskerville Richardson, the superintendent gave me the information that you requested. If there is a PTA or PTO or an organization that still wants to have a meeting with regards to the plan, the email is actually community, and then it's the regular email address for the district. So it's community@nps.k12.nj.us. So the only generic portion of that is just the community part. And I also have 2 phone numbers.
I'm sorry, you said you have phone numbers also?
Yeah. It's 973 733 7333 or 973 733 8481. So either by email or by those 2 phone numbers.
Thank you. I just have one question about that.
Yeah.
That 73, I'm sorry, that 733 number doesn't connect into that, the call center?
The call center?
No? The 7333 number, doesn't that connect into the call center? Okay, so community at nps.k12.nj.us and 973-733-7333 if people want additional meetings,
Yeah,
community groups with the superintendent.
or that
with,
other
with
phone number.
someone about this.
Or that other phone number, 973 733 8481.
And where is the 8481 number 2? Do we know where that? That's a special number for community engagement? Community and family engagement. Thank you.
So probably then the best bet would probably be community and family engagement number. You're welcome. Please, we haven't adjourned our meeting yet. Can you? Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry. I know that you were beginning to say something. Is this old or new business?
Yeah, this old new business. I'm not going to be long tonight. I just have a few requests. I see Valerie with a pen already, so if you could jot down these requests. I have a few requests. Myself, and Ms. Richardson, and Board Member Al-Tariq, we asked for the list of the consultants, and we still haven't received the list of the consultants. When we asked for the list, we only got one name, and we knew it was more than one consultant in this district. I would also like to request a list of salaries of the executive staff in the district. Also would like a list of the attendees who attended the superintendent clergy meeting that she said she had and community dialogue meeting that she said she had. And also would like to request a meeting with Newark Vocational Administration about incidents and concerns that was raised here tonight. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any other old or new business? Mr. Kenny?
We also requested information regarding co-location schools, so we can get that information sometime within the next week or two, within the next week. The information regarding the co-location schools of last year, Camden Street, South 17th Street, the information regarding how the students performed.
These co-locations began this year.
testing has not been completed for the year, so you have no test results, but you received data on Saturday in the packet at the meeting we had. So the data we have is with regards to enrollment, with regards to retention, and with regards to testing results haven't happened because tests haven't been administered. We won't get those until probably August, September.
Okay. Anything else? Any old or new business? Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Aye.
First by Mr. Kenny, second by Ms. Baskerville Richardson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.